Welcome everyone to Friends of Europe Strategic Conversation series, where we engage influential leaders, thinkers, commentators on matters of policy that affect Europe and Europe's position in the world. Today, I'm joined by Ambassador Yoon Soongu, Ambassador to EU from Korea, South Korea. Welcome, Ambassador. It's very good to have you here with me today. You've had quite a distinguished career as an ambassador all over the world, and this is your first stint, I believe, as EU ambassador from South Korea. I think you started earlier this year, and you've had your first outing, I imagine, in EU-South Korean relations at the most recent video summit. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to kick off with that, if I may, Ambassador. What was it? What was your sense of your reaction to what took place? Mm-hmm. And what does it say about the current EU-South Korea relations?
Mm-hmm. Well, so firstly, thank you for having me, and I'm really thrilled to have a conversation with you over the video. Well, this year marks the 10th anniversary of establishing our strategic partnership with the European Union, and coincidentally, this is the 10th anniversary of concluding free trade agreements with the European Union, to Korean side. Korea was the first country in Asia which concluded 3 basic agreements with the European Union: framework agreement, free trade agreement, and the crisis management agreement. So I think that by nature, Korea became, quite a strong partner to European Union. Well, in spite of the, the outbreak of coronavirus, leaders of 2 sides agreed to have a video conference. So we had very good discussions, and of course, so I think that's, we have many accomplishments to celebrate. Many things. Firstly, Korea has been commended by the key members of the international community on its successful and innovative ways to tackle the coronavirus. So we, both leaders agreed to commit themselves to further cooperating each other on the R&D, research and development of vaccine, for example, and medicines, and also, so we are now co-working to providing some assistance to developing countries also. And also, we are quite firm on the joint effort of international communities to address these pandemics. So we have a quite excellent relationship with the European Union on the COVID front. And also, on a bilateral basis, we have quite a long list of outstanding issues with the European Union. Mm-hmm. But basically, we are united by the common values of democracies, rule of law, and human rights, and some things. So I think that's, so we can manage to resolve all outstanding issues, many outstanding issues. And also, we once again confirmed a possible challenge which will be posed to us, and so we determined to resolve this daunting challenge together with the European Union. So we share a lot of things. Firstly, Korea is open. Korea wants to keep the global market open and transparent, and also, European Unions also have the same interest in running these global economies. And so we have voluntarily participated in the European Union's efforts to collect the monies to address the pandemics. This is quite a good examples. And, so we are quite key partners of European Unions in Asia.
Indeed. Ambassador, thank you very much for that. If I were to ask you what you see as the top 3 items of urgency or challenges that you feel that we need to work together on between the EU and South Korea, from your perspective, what would they be? I think you've alluded to some of those, but if I may, there's a key issue around trade and competition. You have some tech giants in your backyard. Europe's trying to create some tech giants, if you like. There are issues around trade and free trade. But you tell me, what do you see as the top 3 to-do items on the list of working agenda for both the EU and South Korea?
Well, the leaders of 2 sides that devoted their precious times mostly to how to address the COVID challenge, the challenge which was posed by the COVID. So I think that's effective management of COVID crisis is the key priorities to side. We have many ongoing cooperations with European unions. We are committed to develop, the vaccines and the medicines to COVID-19. That's one of the areas of our bilateral cooperations. And also, European unions now is mobilizing international communities, to assist the developing countries. And also, we paid the rightful share on that purpose also. And of course, we have quite a long list. Firstly, trade issues. We would like to modernize our existing free trade agreements with the European unions. Mm-hmm. Korea-EU free trade agreement is considered as the new level of free trade agreements, because it includes some fascinating clause with regard to labor and environment issues. But again, 10 years have passed since we concluded the free trade agreements. So European Union has a great interest in inclusions of some preparation on the labor issues also, and also so we have our own agenda also. So that is the one thing. Mm-hmm. The second thing is that there are many, and as a global player, European Union leaders had a chance to speak with the Korean presidents on the issues of geopolitical security issues.
Indeed.
Yes. So as a champion which promotes peace and stability on key regions, the European Union's welcomed Korean president's initiatives to lay a solid foundation of peace on the Korean Peninsula. And my president explained, what happens on the Korean Peninsula, and mm-hmm. and also, he asked European Union's continued support in his endeavor to promote peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula, and also, leaders of two sides exchanged views on key regional issues, including Iran and Ukraine and something like that. That is one of the area, and also we have many some practical outstanding issues. For example, how to protect personal information, of Europe's in Korea. Indeed. And we call the GDPR. So, now the bilateral discussion is going on to, to these issues. And also, there are many outstanding trade dispute between two sides. So, so for example, the European Union has a great interest in further importing their agricultural product to the Korean side. Mm-hmm. And also Korean side also has its own interest to the European market. European market, European Union offers the single largest market to the world, So I think that we have great interest to ensure that European markets will be continued to be open and, indiscriminatory.
Indeed. In terms of, thank you for that, Ambassador. In terms of tech and privacy, I mean, there are some key issues there, are there not, in terms of you having some quite significant industries that are worldwide and providing secure networks and secure infrastructure. And then there's the whole debate around Huawei and China and the role of Huawei in relation to having access to, let's say, the European market. What are some of your concerns or issues that Europe should be thinking through carefully in relation to its role in relationship to South Korea in that context?
Well, I think that's European Union. I know. Yes, European Union and Korea quite share the same, a source of a problem, because Korea. To Korea, United States is, as the allies, and to many key members of European Union, also United States has a treaty allies to the European Unions. So, but on the other hand, China is our largest market.
Yes.
Our largest economic partner.
Indeed.
I think that's that's analogically the Chinese market and Chinese economic potential is very important to sustainable growth of European economy. And for that purpose, we share the same, the same problems, basically. But on the other hand, in terms of a telecommunication security, it's very also important. But the two leaders of the leaders of two sides didn't address that concrete problems. But overall, they shared some recognition and understanding on how to address Chinese, the matters, the issues which was caused by the rise of Chinese power, for example.
Yes.
There are many issues these days which has been caused by the Chinese kinds of quite, the assertive diplomacies,
Yes.
Hong Kong issues and 5G and others. Well, basically, our fundamental principle is to preserve a rule-based order, and also, we will not tolerate any a dominant, the influence of any single countries, and also basically it runs into our security of our telecommunication systems. For that reasons, basically we share the same concerns with the European Union.
Yes.
But we didn't enter some detailed aspect of our issues which is related to the China.
Okay, sure. I think the wider point is, as you make, Ambassador, the right one is that about how do you protect and secure telecommunications infrastructure, but also the digital infrastructure that countries will increasingly share and will be managed by some big giants in the world that you need to create and be thinking, that will be created, and we need to be thinking carefully about in terms of, as you quite rightly say, adopting a rules-based approach. What is your reaction in that context to Trump's invitation to yourself and others to expand the G7?
Well, I believe Korea has played quite an important role, kinds of roles anyhow, in global governance. I think that we can claim some our share in making G20, basically. So now discussion is going on the expansions of G7. I think that we need to admit that G7 played a certain role in global governance so far. I think that we will be eligible and we will be ready to play our certain roles once we will be invited by the member state of G7. But basically, the countries among G7 need to have some converging ideas on the expansion issues. And then if we will be invited, we are ready to play a quite constructive roles. So I think that Korea is considered as a quite innovative countries in many fields.
Yes.
So I think that basically we could make a constructive, contributions to a global governance, including, for example, how to address infectious disease like a pandemic, for example.
Sure.
So Korea is the exemplary case.
Indeed.
And also, so we are committed to, the global challenge, on and around a climate change. This is basically also quite important issues to European Union, and many things. So I think that's the eligibility to a certain group should be based on the merit systems, not the some exclusive membership doesn't work in
or
this
politics.
world. Yeah.
Ambassador, do you feel, there's been a lot of talk recently about the legitimacy and efficacy of institutions such as the G20, the G7, etc. Is it time? Do you think there's a role that, as you say, South Korea has a very individual but creative, imaginative, but also very successful economy, and you've led the ways in many different areas and paths of society. Do you think there's a role now for a different kind of governance model for the 21st century to deal with our concerns, as we've seen from the impact of the pandemic and how multilateral institutions, or rather, haven't responded to it? Is it time now, from your perspective, for a new type of governance model, global governance model?
Well, I don't believe that we, our case, Korea's case, is kind of a a quite alternative model of governance.
Mm-hmm.
But we made quite modest, success in
Indeed.
combating COVID-19. Basically, when it comes to the COVID-19, we are well prepared because we had a prior experience to deal with such a pandemics, like the SARS, and as well as the MERS, which stands for Middle East, respiratory syndrome. So, for example, so in spite of the fact that we had quite stormy and quite a strong internal debate, we managed to enact quite a strong act to address such an infectious disease, and also in accordance with relevant law and regulations. So we prepared ourselves to combat the infectious disease like a COVID. So for that reasons, against this backdrop, so we managed to control the spread, so of COVID-19. That's the one part. And also in terms of innovation index, Korea used to be ranked number 1 or number 2 in the world.
Indeed.
So Korea is considered as a testbed of new technology, for example,
yes.
And a lot of innovation are taking place in our soil. And also Korea is a quite impressive track record, basically because our R&D share to our total GDP is enormous, always ranking around number 1 and number 2 in the world.
Indeed, I'm aware of that. Yes.
Yes, and also many experts pointed out that the Koreans' fever for higher education was a big factor, in developing our motherland. So I think that in that sense, and also we have quite the amicable relations between civil society and government, at least. That is the source of our modest success in combating coronavirus. So, well, this kinds of positive elements, if you pay attention to these kinds of positive, elements,
yes.
Korea, will be, taken as a, will deserve kinds of a alternative model of a governance. But all in all, so we attach great importance on some universal values as free markets and the human right and rule of law. And so, so in that sense, we are just trying to, do our best, as a responsible member of international community.
Indeed, and Bas, thank you for that. It's almost like a 101 on how do you make a good government work. And that was very good, for those key elements you identified. And I'm well aware, if many are well aware, that the ratio of your R&D to GDP is phenomenal, and you can suggest that actually that's one of the reasons why you have been so successful. I have just two very final questions. One is, and we've touched upon your response and success to the COVID crisis. Tell us for the purpose of our audience, if you were to sum up how you're able to be successful in South Korea, what are the key elements?
Well, we don't have any unknown secret.
No, I know there's no recipe, but it'd be good for people to understand how was it that South Korea managed to turn it around so much better and earlier than others?
Well, so I think that the number one factor is that we had a prior experience to deal with such an infectious disease as SARS in 2003 and also MERS in 2015.
Sure.
So we were well prepared anyhow. We were well prepared. Korean government and local administration have worked together in close concert with the civil society. There are three key factors, based on three keys. Central to this has been our strategy that consists of a robust testing to confirm positive cases and the rigorous tracing of their contact to prevent further spread, and finally treatment of those infected cases at the earliest possible stage. Among other things, Korea's innovative models deserve drawing a lot of attention from the world when it comes to the testings. As a COVID-19 infection can show little or no symptoms, Basically, we have prioritized early detection through the preemptive diagnostic screening and rigorous epidemiological investigations. The efficiency of this testing was enhanced through the innovative drive-through and walk-through screening stations, which provided quite convenient access to same collection for the public, while maximizing safety of medical expert and healthcare workers. Anyhow,
okay.
And when it comes to the tracing, in tracing the close contact of the confirmed cases, we have utilized their credit card transaction history, CCTV footage, and mobile phone, and etc. Of course, the information pertinent to the preventing spread of COVID-19 is anonymized, for the fear of
Sure.
personal protections, and disclosed to the public with due care to protect the personal information. Well, the legal framework for our current contact tracing method was established in the aftermath again of the MERS outbreak in 2015.
Okay.
Yes, of course, some people here in Europe are pretty much concerned about the abuse or misuse of personal information.
Privacy.
Yes. But we have quite the second line of defense. Firstly, anonymized informations, and all the personal information could be made an access to only relevant government officials. If they do not abide by some rules, they'll be punishable. And there are some second line of defenses. So, well, this is the result. This should be interpreted as a result of our heated internal debate, So we try to strike the right balance between conflicting needs and interest. So,
yes.
So I think that basically, and also due to our advanced level of ICT technology, all these things could be done. So I think that many countries are trying to emulate the path that we have taken.
Indeed.
Yes. So, so I think that needless to say that, and we have never closed our external border to foreign countries, even within the communities, so we didn't, conduct some kinds of lockdowns and some coercive measures. Basically, even the general election took place as scheduled in April. So I think that is a quite impressive accomplishment that we should be proud of ourselves.
No, indeed. I think you say experience speaks volumes, but also you had the ICT innovation and you had an open, I suppose, assessment and a willingness to confront some of the challenges in a way perhaps other countries have yet to do. I won't ask you to comment on how you're seeing the response by certain big nations to COVID-19, because that would make you quite difficult when you're dealing with your diplomatic hat on with your fellow diplomatic officials. But it does strike me and us that there's a much more of a politicized response to COVID that we're seeing both in the United States, in the UK and other parts, which aims to achieve one thing, but actually not really follow the science or the ICT in the way that it should. But that's another matter. I want to conclude by asking you, Soongu, what do you see as South Korea's role in the next 5 years? Do you see yourself as being a much stronger player in the East and Asia in its role with the EU in relation to innovation and market making? Those are the two areas I think in particular that strike me, us, where South Korea has a lot to offer and there's a lot of mutuality and gain to be established.
Well, the new leadership of European Union now actively pursuing a green transformation and digital transitions. I think that this policy orientation is very much in line with us. Current President Moon is pursuing a digital transformation as well as green transitions as a way to lead my countries to a next levels. So I think that's by nature, Korea is quite a reliable partner to European unions. If you look at strategic partners in Asia to Europe, you know, there are 4 strategic partners. This is, you know, the decision that European Union has made, you know, by themselves. India, China, Japan, Korea.
Indeed.
Well, yes. So you have some clearer pictures why Korea is very important. Well, I think that's in terms of a basic value and quite innovative nature of our industry, Korea is by far number 1, should be, you know, by far a cooperative partner to European unions. You know, I don't want to, you know, pinpoint in certain countries, but well, some countries has some differences on basic values, and some countries are so much closed, you know. But Korea is basically open and transparent societies. You know, well, we are not that big compared with our neighbors.
Indeed.
But I think that in terms of a innovative nature of our country, we are quite comparable, comparably big, I believe.
Exactly. And in classic, you know, diplomatic fashion, you answer the question without actually naming anybody, but very well done. We got the message. No, but clearly, and I think that there is the reason why we, Friends of Europe, wanted to have this conversation with you, because we see that South Korea has a significant role to play in the future, alongside others, as you point to, but we want to be able to have this kind of discussion with you on a more ongoing basis. Ambassador, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure, you know, to speak with you of the video. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Take care, and thank you all for viewing. And stay tuned and watch a link to our website to get our next strategic conversation date and time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.